Hello there everyone, welcome to the channel if you're new, welcome back if you are not. I am EDJ, and we are going to be watching a new part of the Basil II series by HistoryMarche, part 4 to be specific. And, dang, I'm never happy with the way my camera's positioned. But point is, so yeah, last time Basil kind of took a back seat. You know, he was busy, being an emperor and doing stuff at the capital of Constantinople. So some of his, people were basically handle the fighting. Other than Oranus, everyone else was kind of struggling. So yeah, now I think Basil is gonna come out of the capital and be hands-on once again. So I'm really looking forward to seeing a bit more. I'm waiting for the big moment. Don't get me wrong, Basil is doing really well. I'm thinking of how he's handling the situation in the Balkans. The way he managed to stop the rebellion. So overall, very good, but I'm waiting for the big moment. I'm waiting for the, like, Hannibal has Cannae, Napoleon has Austerlitz. I'm waiting for Basil's, really, big highlight of his career. I feel like we haven't gotten that yet, but I'm really hoping we get to that. So far, very good, but I'm waiting for whatever that moment is. I've kept myself very much unspoiled. I haven't researched or Googled anything about Basil yet. I just want to learn completely from this, series. So, yeah, I guess we'll see more, because apparently he takes Macedonia, so I'm really looking forward to seeing some of Basil's impressiveness on display once again. So if you want to watch the original video, the link is down below. Without any further ado, let's watch Basil Part 4. Basil retakes Macedonia.
By late 997, Bulgarian Emperor Roman, the last ruler of the Krum dynasty, died in Byzantine captivity. He spent his final years governing a vast estate that was generously provided to him by his captor, Basil II. Since his capture, Samuel became de facto ruler, successfully waging war against the Byzantine Empire. But after suffering a crippling defeat in the Battle of Spercheios at the hands of Basil II's star general, Nikephoros Oranus, Samuel was forced to seek terms. But the year 997 would be a fleeting moment of peace on the western Byzantine frontier, as the two Balkan empires geared up to continue the war. Neither would rest until one of them was gone for good. With the death of Emperor Roman, a conclusion to the long Byzantine-Bulgarian War finally seemed to be on the horizon. Byzantine Emperor Basil II now hoped he would have an easier job in carving up Bulgarian lands. However, not long after Roman's passing, Samuel adopted the title of Tsar. This was enough to enrage Basil, who dispatched Oranus with orders to ruthlessly plunder the
Tsar. Doesn't Tsar mean Caesar? I believe it's derived from the word for Russia, at least. Yeah, that's kind of cool. That's pretty much that's kind of hilarious. Samuel has been a very interesting opponent for Basil to work around. So I'm wondering just how Basil's gonna get rid of him, because Samuel, other than that mistake he made with, Oranos, essentially he's handled himself very well against the Romans. He's very, yeah, like I say, he's a very intelligent enemy, so I wonder just how will Basil be able to defeat him, and put him down for good.
The Bulgarian countryside. Aware of his diminished strength, Samuel could only ignore the Byzantine incursion. Luckily for the Bulgarian monarch, trouble in the east would once again force Basil II to divert his attention from the west. In the summer of 998, the Fatimids crushed a Roman army close to Apamea, executing the Byzantine commander of the east, Damian Delasenos. and seriously endangering the empire's eastern frontier. By the autumn of 999, Basil crossed the Taurus Mountains with General Ouranos in tow. The emperor made sure to punish the Fatimid-controlled Archia and Homs, storming and ruthlessly sacking both cities. The latter's population was supposedly burned alive by Basil's Varangians while trying to take refuge in a church. But the Roman advance along the Mediterranean coast was once again halted at the city of Tripoli, where Basil's army suffered heavy losses in a sally of the local garrison. Despite the minor setback, the speed and effectiveness of Basil's campaign had convinced the advisors of the young puppet caliph al-Hakim to seek peace. Around 1000 AD, a truce would finally be negotiated, ultimately leading to 16 years of uninterrupted peace between Byzantium and the Fatimids.
Wow, that's really good.
The emperor could finally head home. However, his job in the east was not over yet. Important news reached Basil en route while he was wintering in the plains of Tarsus. David III of the Georgian kingdom of Tau had passed away during the early months of 1000 AD. 10 years ago, Basil had forced the aging king to adopt him as his son and heir, disrupting David's old agreement with his other adopted son, Bagrat III of Abkhazia. Quickly overcoming the grief from the passing of his adoptive father, Basil marched to claim his hefty inheritance. Not long after, the kingdom of Tau was officially absorbed by the Byzantine Empire. Basil then toured his new province, handing out court titles to local Georgian rulers to ensure their loyalty. In addition, the emperor made sure to show off his army, just in case any of the nobles had any idea.
Yeah, he's making power moves, which is incredibly smart to do when you've, be kind, absorb them, but also show them what happens, what they're messing with, if they should ever be so bold. Yeah, overall, I think that this is very smart. I like his little power moves. And the man managed to secure a 16-year-long peace just by spooking them with his fast-moving efficiency. So yeah, Basil's getting some real W's right now. So, yeah, I'm really liking this.
Ideas. This seemed to work for the time, and Basil decided to head for Constantinople around mid-1000 AD, leaving the capable Ouranos as his new duke in the east. Ouranos quickly proved...
Okay, I like that decision. Ouranos is the only guy to actually get a victory over an enemy of Basil, mainly, Samuel, who's been a threat. So, yeah, Ouranos seems like a capable right-hand man. I like that.
Proved himself a competent governor against King Gurgen of Iberia. Dissatisfied with the minor court title he was given by Basil, Gurgen invaded the Byzantine Empire. However, his attempts were quickly thwarted by Ouranos, and the Georgians withdrew. Having returned to Constantinople in late 1000 AD, Basil wasted no time in preparing for the resumption of conflict with Bulgaria. But much had changed in the Balkans during the emperor's absence. Samuel had successfully invaded Serbia, capturing the ruler of the leading principality of Dukia, Ivan Vladimir, before pillaging most of the Dalmatian coast. This aggression towards Byzantine allies could not go unpunished, and in 1001, Basil prepared for a large-scale invasion.
Probably the most common question that I'm asked as a professor at Hillsdale is, what happened to my country?
He tasked a certain Nikiforos Xiphias with crossing the Balkan mountains and striking into Bulgaria's old heartland to the north. In the meantime, Basil left a small garrison in Philippopolis and marched towards Sredets. Still haunted by memories of the disastrous 989 campaign, the emperor only plundered the city's environs without laying a siege. To the east, Xiphias made good progress, capturing the old Bulgarian capitals of Pliska and Preslav, before pressing north towards Durostorum. Devastated by the decades of war, much of northern Bulgaria was easy prey at this time. Even the almost impregnable stronghold of Dorostorum fell into Byzantine hands without much resistance. Xiphias then plundered his way through Dobruja, leaving garrisons as he went. By the end of the year, the Byzantines had reclaimed their ancient province of Moesia. In the wake of this success, Basil and Xiphias spent the
Man, Xiphias seems incompetent as well, which is good. Dang, he just took all that back, seemingly very effortlessly. That's actually cool.
winter in Constantinople, making plans for the upcoming campaign in 1002. Once the snow melted, they headed back for the frontier, this time planning to strike at the political heart of the country, Macedonia. Basil's first stop was the fortress of Veria, a stronghold that Samuel reconquered around 996. Again, Basil approached the invasion with tactical and diplomatic wit. He promised hefty rewards and titles to any Bulgarian noble who submitted to Constantinople. The governor of Veria, a man named Dobromir, who was also married to Samuel's niece, did not need much convincing. The town was taken without a siege, and its ruler was rewarded with the title of proconsul. It didn't take long for word of Basil's leniency to spread, and many nobles from Thessaly, Macedonia, and Bulgaria proper to surrender to the Byzantine emperor, most notably Demeter, the ruler of the fort of Calindria. Yet not everyone was tempted by Basil's promises. Nikolitsa, the governor of Servia, resisted the Byzantines for months. Despite that, the fortress of Servia and its headstrong governor were eventually captured by the Romans. Choosing mercy over cruelty, Basil gave Nikolitsa the title of patrician, sending the man to a comfortable retirement.
Yeah, it's interesting how Basil also utilizes like promises and, very much portraying himself in a very good light. Like, it's not all just aggression and violence with him. Like, he shows a lot of, promise as to why you would want to join him, right? So I really like the way he utilizes, I guess, diplomacy to get the job done. And yeah, what is Samuel doing? Like, we're not getting his perspective. I'm wondering what he's thinking about all this. What is he planning? Because he's awfully silent at the moment, and I'm like, is he plotting something? Like, things are going very well for Basil. I'm just wondering.
In Constantinople. But, unfortunately for the emperor, the relentless Bulgarian would escape from the capital and try to retake Servia, only to be captured again. This time the emperor's patience had run out, and Nikolitsa was imprisoned for life. Following this fiasco, the emperor headed for the fortress of Voden. Located on a high ridge, this stronghold fell after an intense siege that lasted many months. With these conquests, Basil secured control over southern Macedonia. However, there was still work to be done in the area. The emperor spent the rest of 1002 rebuilding the devastated fortresses of Thessaly, before finally returning to winter in Constantinople. Not wasting any time, Basil was already preparing to lay another siege. This time his aim was Vidin, Bulgaria's most important northern city, an impregnable fortress without which control over the Danube River was impossible. By late spring, Basil was already encamped close to Vidin's walls, marking the start of what would become the longest siege of the war. For Samuel, the prospect of his key northern city falling was unnerving. Depleted of troops, the Tsar had stayed passive while Basil kept reducing his strongholds in Macedonia.
Oh, that makes sense. I was like, he's awfully like just being very chill while he loses his entire kingdom. But that makes a complete sense. Yeah, he's lost his strength, but you're gonna have to do something. Basil's like basically dominating right now, taking everything back. So yeah.
But now he had to act. After mustering his diminished army, Samuel marched through Thrace and, by August, reached Adrianople. The Tsar attempted to storm the city while its garrison was distracted by a festival held on the 15th. However, the town's sturdy fortifications halted all of Samuel's attempts. Tired of failing to conquer the city, the Bulgarian monarch thoroughly plundered the local countryside, hoping that this would finally trigger a reaction and force Basil to lift the siege and head back for Adrianople. Basil did not take the bait. After an 8-month-long blockade, a local Bulgarian bishop led the Byzantine forces inside Vidin. The city had fallen to Basil, and with it the entirety of northern Bulgaria. The emperor decided to spend the winter in the town, busying himself with administrative matters. In the meantime, a likely angered Samuel was sluggishly retreating towards Skopje. Word of this reached Basil, and the emperor moved to intercept the Bulgarians. In early spring, the emperor led his men southwards through Naissus before reaching the Vardar River, located just south of Skopje. Basil had once again outmaneuvered Samuel, who had not yet entered the city. Encamped on the southern bank of the Vardar, just to the east of Skopje, the Tsar's men were totally unprepared for what was coming. Though highly unlikely, the few...
Okay, so Basil is gonna get the drop on him due to his... Basil, what I'm noticing is that Basil's really quick. Like, he's usually moving faster than his enemies can anticipate and outmaneuvering them before battles even begin. It kind of reminds you of Napoleon in that aspect, with his speed and catching enemies off guard. So it seems like Basil, I noticed he has that in common, from what I've noticed. And, yeah, I guess this seems like it'll be the end for Samuel. His army's depleted. Basil's basically taken most of Bulgaria. So, I think this is finally the decisive battle to decide the conflict.
Sources we have on the battle mention that the Bulgarian Tsar repeated the same mistake he made at Sperchios, believing the river to be unfordable and failing to keep an eye on Basil.
You think he would learn from, like, his biggest defeat, right? To never do it again, but... Well, Samuel, you've messed up, my friend.
Much like his general Oranos, the emperor managed to cross the river at night and surprise Samuel. Given the Tsar's military experience and the considerable depth of the Vardar River, this likely isn't what exactly happened. Nevertheless, Basil found a way to catch Samuel and his ragtag army by surprise. The two forces clashed, Basil's men severely outnumbering the Bulgarians. Caught off guard, Samuel exposing himself to a Roman attack on an open field. With that, Basil's victory was guaranteed before the clash had even started. Despite the fierce resistance of the Bulgarians, their casualties quickly mounted, and Samuel was forced to call a retreat. Basil seems to have not engaged in a pursuit, instead choosing to concentrate his efforts on the city of Skopje. Before a proper siege could even begin, however, the city opened its gates to the Romans. Samuel's defeat at the Battle of Skopje was a minor defeat. Despite this, Basil had ticked off another former Bulgarian capital from his list. Confident after his victory, the emperor headed for Pernik, a Bulgarian fortress located about 50 kilometers southwest of Sredets.
So yeah, that's really cool in that, you know, Basil basically kind of took back that W because Samuel so many years ago had handed Basil his greatest defeat. So it's nice to see Basil get the one-up on him. And so yeah, things are just going incredibly smooth for Basil. You're seeing such a growth in him that was not around in his early career. Just, you know, he's very just dominating this war right now. Like, it's amazing. He's very efficient, you know.
Ex-governor Krakra was not tempted by Basil's promises of wealth and titles. After months of intensive siege and many losses caused by Krakra's constant sallying from the fort, the emperor was forced to retreat to Constantinople. Meanwhile, the absence of Basil allowed Samuel to recapture Skopje soon after. But by 1004, Basil had exhausted Bulgaria, and the decisive battle for the survival of the Tsardom was about to begin. If you stayed around this far, thank you for watching.
So next video is gonna be the decisive battle. Okay, so I was reading the footnotes, but so yes, overall what I have to say is that Basil is very efficient, and what I like about him is that he's using diplomacy on one hand, but also he can be, yeah, brutal with war, but I like how he gives people a reason to surrender to him. Like, he uses, like I said, diplomacy, promises, which he usually seems to be, you know, very good at paying off. And, you know, I would just describe him as efficient. Like, the man is just going around doing an incredible job. Like, this entire video was him basically dominating Bulgaria, which you're seeing just his speed, his, you know, efficiency, his, you know, diplomacy, just on all around thread in every regard. And you know, like I said, this is just a very cool display, and you've really kind of seen his growth when you watch the first part of this series up to now. You just see how much he's improved, which is what we like to see. You know, Basil's getting better, and I guess we're going to be seeing the Battle of Clarendon next, which seems to kind of that's going to be the final decisive victory or battle that Basil will have to face in order to finally end this Bulgarian threat. And yeah, I'm hoping that this will be, you know, we'll just see just how this battle goes out, and I think I have a feeling this might be one of the highlights of Basil's career, because I'm just waiting for, like, the ultimate battle to define him, you know. I have a feeling this battle might just be that, but then again, we have other battles after. We have other videos, so I guess we'll find out. But I'm really looking forward to this. I'm just gonna jump to it right now. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye, everyone.